Tex Messages the Resurrection, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it that you've had to endure us up to this point, or if this is your first time tuning in, we typically broadcast out of Elk River, Minnesota. We're in the Tex Messages Resurrected studios, and it's about 15 below Fahrenheit outside right now. So what that usually means is that tomorrow, allegedly, it'll get down to about 30 below. And for central Minnesota, that's pretty cold. But for maybe Alaska or the ice wall, you know, the flat earth theory, then it's probably not so cold. But for us here, generally involves running cars overnight and things of that nature. So keeps them warm and healthy, and then you don't have to plug them in or do any of that weird, goofy stuff. So, ladies and gentlemen, so today what we wanted to talk about is muscle memory. You may have heard a lot of bro science out there about muscle memory. If you lift a bunch of weights and then 2 years later you try to lift some more, and then you're able to recover and train quicker because you've somehow established a thing called muscle memory. Now, that's sort of the whole argument for taking things like steroids, is that you cycle them on and off. So say 2-3 months you're on and then 8 months you're off. But the residual gains from what this is called as muscle memory will still help you in the long run. That's the idea behind it. Otherwise, you just take them year-round, it'll mess up your endocrine system and it'll screw up all your hormones, and you won't ever produce testosterone in a natural state anymore. This is something you definitely want to avoid. You don't really want to take synthetic testosterone for the rest of your life. A lot of people do, even people that don't necessarily need to take it, you know, testosterone replacement therapy. Elderly people take that, but for younger people, they don't really necessarily need that. But I mean, a lot of people, that's one of the things that has changed over the generations. People's testosterone nowadays has gone, on the average, significantly lower than back 100 years ago. And even, a lot of other things, factors have changed too, like grip strength and just being a man has changed significantly. Now, as far as women are concerned, with some of the chemicals in the water, it's causing them to mature at an earlier age. And as far as some of the side effects of that, you know, when they have more of the estrogen in their coursing through their veins and everything like that, then it just causes a litany of potential side effects as well. So it's just, our species is certainly, maybe it's not necessarily under attack, but it's changing, it's evolving. Whether it's for the better or for the worse, not entirely sure of that one. But based on the level of health and how close we are to, or how lack of, basically how far we are from natural living environment that we are now, it's likely worse than we were 100, 200, 300 years ago. And see, the Industrial Revolution started about 160 years ago. So probably before that time, humans were the most healthy, and then once we started extracting oil out of the ground and burning it and putting all these weird chemicals in the air and raising the overall carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere, then it's probably contributed to less health. Especially if you live in industrial areas or close to sources of combustion, then you're definitely not going to be a very healthy person. You probably got clogged lungs and arteries and all that good fun stuff. But getting back to the topic. So muscle memory. There's muscle memory discovery that ends the use it or lose it dilemma. Dogma, as they call it. See, there are these nuclei cells that control and maintain your muscle fibers. And they persist even when muscle cells shrink from disuse. See, you have a fixed number of muscle cells. Now, those cells are the biggest in your body. But one of the reasons why people take human growth hormone is because it actually increases the number of those muscle cells. Steroids just increase the size of the cell. So when people take a lot of the human growth hormone and they increase the number of cells, then the long-term effects are still there and prevalent. So what these researchers found is that residual myonuclei allow more and faster growth when trained. So the more you work out, you know, so much as you're not overtraining and all that goofy stuff, your body creates more of these myonuclei cells and pathways. Say for example, the first 3 months you work out, your body is building up these myonuclei at a rapid pace. And then that's why you gain a lot of apparent strength in the first 3 months. And then after that, you sort of tail off and level off, because then you're relying more on the muscle cell growth, which requires excessive protein consumption and, you know, fats and carbohydrates to support that as well. So if you don't have the proper digestive system to support the growth, then you sort of get to a certain point, and then it's very difficult to get above that hump, believe me. So the muscle cells are the biggest cells in the body. That's why they require a lot of protein. And the muscle growth is accompanied by the addition of the new nuclei from stem cells to meet the synthetic demands of the larger muscle cell. So for example, if you do a lot of working out and exercising at a young age, say in your 20s, and then you stop for 10 years and then you start again in your 30s, you're still, according to this research article, you're still going to have a lot of the myonuclei built up in your body. So even though your muscle cells may have significantly shrunken or atrophied to the point where you're a 130-pound skeleton that looked like you just rolled out of a coffin and had 14 bottles of scotch poured on you and had all your organs sucked out in a liposuction clinic, if you start exercising again at 30 whatever years old, your muscles will grow back, and initially they will grow back rather quickly. You know, the first 3 months when all the nuclei cells are there and it just packing in all the protein in the muscles and everything. But then you will get to a point where you'll rely a lot more on growing the muscle cells beyond what you can really comfortably eat in a daytime. So then you sort of meet a dilemma of, well, all right, how much working out or strength training do you actually need to do, or you should do, so that doesn't inhibit or impede any other factors of your life. Which is why it's just important to always watch calories and count calories so that you got a pretty good handle on what's going on. See, you know that if you're eating 3,500 calories per day and then you get to the point where you're lifting such big weights that you're not gaining any muscle from that, or maybe even you're losing muscle, then it tells you that maybe you should try 4,000 calories. But then if you try 4,000 calories and your body isn't able to handle it, then you need to start trying different types of food, different macronutrients. Maybe you're not getting the right micronutrients. Or maybe there's other factors too. Also, you're not getting enough sleep, you're not relaxing, you're not taking warm baths with Epsom salt in it, you're not you're maybe living in a parasympathetic state and you got high anxiety, or you're depressed, or all this other stuff. A lot of those things can factor into just your neurological cells and your muscle cells. So that's why it's critical to try to evaluate these things from all fronts. Now, yeah, it is good to know, though, that your muscle... See, here's the thing with humans, ladies and gentlemen. If there comes a time where there's no resources available, it doesn't really matter how much you work out, because the more you build up your muscles, if there's nothing there, or the more you break down your muscles through working out, and there's nothing there to build them up, your body is going to do the bare minimum it can to adapt to the situation that you're putting itself into. So your body will add these myonuclei cells and the neurotransmitters to create more of the brain neural pathways. But since it won't have the proper resources to build the protein inside the muscle cell, it's not going to do that. So, I mean, you can do all the working out you want, but if you're not putting in the resources to rebuild the muscles, like the adaptation that it wants to do, it's not going to do a damn thing. Now, yeah, maybe if you do that for 6 months and then you start putting in the resources, then the myonuclei will be established and then your muscles will just shoot up right away at a breakneck speed. So there's also that can happen. And then when you take things like steroids and, to a certain extent, human growth hormone, that just artificially communicates to your body to build up your muscle. It sort of bypasses all the other filtration systems and modes of communication that your body uses. Say for example, your natural state doesn't think that you need to be a 250-pound shredded 6% body fat individual. So in a natural state, it's probably not going to expend the resources to do that. But if you start shooting up testosterone therapy and all these other weird hormones and human growth hormone, then yeah, you may get to that point, so long as you're eating the proper protein to support that. I mean, if you're shooting up a bunch of weird stuff and not taking the proper resources to build up your muscles, then chances are pretty good you're not going to see the results that you're intending on seeing, ladies and gentlemen. So, I mean, but this here, say you're working out for a while or training cardiovascular-wise and just not seeing the results you're looking for. There's a lot of factors to consider, but based on everything that goes into building yourself, your character, your muscles, and everything, it is a bit comforting to know that you probably are building the myonuclei and the other neural pathways, even if your overall muscular cells are diminishing. So just keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, because you might come to a time in your life where you're working hard at a job for 6 months, you're on your feet all day, you're lifting things, and then you don't work for a month, and then you feel like your strength shoots through the roof because you're probably eating the same amount of calories, but not working out as much. So then your body sees that it has the additional calories to expend on actual muscle growth. Now, this is where things get tricky, because if you misuse or don't use your muscles for 1, 2, 3 months, then they'll start to shrink again, because your body won't feel a need to adapt to the stresses that you put onto it. As a result of that, ladies and gentlemen, life is just a very tricky balance of where you think you need to be, where you are, and where you're going. Just like with this show, we need to definitely go somewhere, and hopefully in a very expedited fashion. But, like everything, it moves like a container ship, and hopefully we'll bring the quality of this show bring the quality of the show to a level that it needs to be. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for joining us. We truly appreciate your time, and hopefully you can bear with us as we try to improve some of the quality that is absolutely necessary. Thank you.